Oh, are we live?
We're live.
Okay. So just checking, welcome back, everybody. Just checking to see if we have a quorum yet. Senator Ballam or Brock or any of you here to join Allison and myself? I don't hear anybody. So we're a little bit
I'm
early. So
here.
who's that?
I'm here.
No, I said to join Allison and myself.
I know. Maybe.
Let's see, Scott, when you're looking at things, well, now we have Senator Rumpf. That's okay. But when we're waiting like this, can you see when people are trying to get in and, we could say, oh, here comes Johnny. Okay. Let's get started. We have a quorum. Welcome, Abby, and welcome, Rebecca, and members of the public. We're going to talk about S33, which is a bill we voted out of the Senate last year, and it stalled in the House. I think what we'd like to do to refresh our memory is probably start off with Abby to give us sort of a lay perspective on what this bill attempts to do. And as you probably know, Abby, some of us have expressed concern, is the bill as necessary now as it was before the infrastructure bill and ARPA funding and all that? It's a lot of words, it's a lot of process, where in some other cases you could just write a grant in one sentence for a wastewater program. So that's where we want to go. And then we'll turn over to Rebecca, and maybe Becky, you can share with us a little bit of the history, very briefly, what happened in the Senate, but then more importantly, what the downfall was in the House as you see it, just so we understand what they might be looking for in this bill. My intent would be to probably attach it to our economic omnibus bill and maybe give it a better chance of going all the way through in that fashion. We'll see. But okay, Abby, welcome.
Thank you. So Abby Sherman, Executive Director for the Vermont Economic Progress Council. A little bit of background about me. I have been with VEPC for about 2 months, the Executive Director for 2 months, but I've been with VEPC for 4 years. Prior to that, I have 11 years of municipal government experience. So S33, as it stands now currently in the House, is essentially a TIF clarification bill for TIF districts. The entire project-based TIF program was removed in House Commerce. And we are asking that it be added into the economic omnibus bill. After it was removed from S33 last year, a number of towns had reached out and asked that it be added back in. Some of those I have talked to in the last few months. There is still very much an interest in the project-based TIF program, finding that the ARPA funding for towns, the town share is not the windfall that we thought it might be a year ago. And understanding too that, your question, why not just issue a grant? There are a number of reasons for that. From the municipality's point of view, project-based TIF gives them a little more flexibility, a little more control over when these projects can proceed. Grants are very competitive. It's a waiting game to see if and when they will get it, and how does that fit into the construction seasons. How far along, how shovel ready do they need to be in order to get that grant? It provides the gap funding. So even if they do get some other grants, it helps fill in that gap for them. And I know we have like revolving loan programs, so this provides them a way to repay those loan programs.
Can you, you said that this was stripped out in House Commerce. I thought they liked this program.
It was taken out at House Commerce, I think, at the request of House Ways and Means.
I was going to say that it's across the hall that there's the challenge.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So could you just explain to us, I know there's a lot of words in this bill, but what are the differences between the TIFs that are ready and the project-based TIF language? Are there different criteria? Is it, I know the design was to try and make it somewhat easier for towns that don't have planning offices or the kind of staff to get involved in this kind of creative funding.
Yeah, it slims down the TIF district program for them, makes it a little less challenging for, administratively wise. Districts could lean on their regional planning commissions to help with the administrative piece. It slims it down in terms of location criteria, needing to only meet one, as well as project criteria. I think they only need to meet one or two out of three. I can't recall off the top of my head now. Whereas the TIF district program, they need to meet 2 out of 3 location criteria and 3 out of 5 project criteria, which is a significant, challenge. It also slims down the number of parcels that are involved. We would envision about 10 parcels because again, it's gap financing. It's not meant to cover the entire cost of the project.
So what is the number of parcels that have to be impacted in the regular TIF right now?
I don't think that there's necessarily a limit. It varies by district. We have some that are larger and others that are smaller. There has to be enough. They have more of a menu of projects that they will complete, right? A much larger cost. And so they do need to have enough parcels within their district that will develop in order to cover those costs.
So just because we're refreshing our memories here, the administration brought forth this proposal. I know they were enthusiastic about it. And the reason was that smaller communities were not availing themselves of the TIF statute, and the 2 reasons you said so far are the basic reasons. The criteria were not applicable to small projects and the administrative burden was too much for small towns. Is that essentially why this was brought forward?
Those are 2 primary reasons. Yes, I would say, the number of towns that I have talked to who are interested in TIF, they just cannot connect all of the dots. They don't have, it's just not large enough. They can't meet the location criteria requirements because again, it's 2 out of 3. There is, in this omnibus bill, there is also the request to reduce the location criteria to 1, which might help pick up some of these towns who would otherwise qualify for TIF. But it's just to give them, that final connection to cover that last piece.
Well, I know Becky will tell us the history here in terms of, I know there was some negotiation around the number of projects that could go forward on this mini TIF pilot basis, I think. Is there a restriction on the number of TIFs that could apply and be accepted right now in the big TIF program in law?
There is. Currently, it's restricted to 6 with Act 69 from 2017, and we've approved Bennington and Montpelier under that. We're currently reviewing Killington. So it's a total of 6 and no more than 2 per county.
Okay, I thought that was the case. Um,
Eh.
Okay, Senator Clarkson.
Thank you, Abby. Hi, I'm Allison Clarkson. Lovely to meet you. Welcome aboard. Have more towns been in touch? I mean, this program's now been out and proposed for more than a year. Have more smaller towns like Westford been in touch to ask about this possibility?
Yeah, we've talked to Highgate. We talked to them last fall. They were actually interested in the TIF district program, but then realized they don't meet the location criteria. They can only meet one of the criteria. I've also talked to Johnson. They are still very interested in project-based TIF. I understand that Hardwick supports it. Polteny is interested. I've talked to them about both the TIF district program and, if project-based TIF were to move forward. Swanton, I just talked to them a couple of weeks ago about TIF district. But again, their project is so small. The area is so small. It doesn't really fit the bill for a TIF district, but project-based TIF may assist them. Certainly, there are other towns that the Agency of Natural Resources has sent on to me that they may be interested in this as well for water or wastewater projects.
Great.
Thank you. You mentioned that in this draft bill we've cobbled together at this point, there was also a provision to reduce the qualifications for the regular TIF to one criteria
One location criteria, yes,
out of three, or
out of
how many?
3.
What are those again, very briefly?
That they are within a state designated area. And for that requirement, the district needs to be entirely within the state designation. So state designations can bisect a parcel, whereas a parcel in a TIF district cannot. So if a particular parcel is one that they wanted to include in a TIF district, they would have to exclude it or go back and ask for that boundary for the state designation to be increased. The other is compact or high density. And the last is economically distressed based on median family income, unemployment, and housing, real estate sales.
One last question I have. Did I read somewhere that Westford, who was our poster child, got their money and are now proceeding with their wastewater treatment problem?
That I'm not sure about. I talked to them early in January and they said that they may still be interested. That was a month ago, so maybe things have changed since then. They were, I guess you could call them the poster child, as they were our example of how project-based TIF could work for a community, but we definitely have other communities that are also interested in this. And I could work with some of them. I think Highgate is a little further along. I could work with some of them to create a new scenario if you would like.
Okay. Any
Well-
other questions for Abby? Senator Clarkson?
May I just follow up? Thanks, Michael. I think that as we go through this, especially in the House, it will be important for the 6 or 7 communities you just discussed to weigh in with their House members on how strongly they feel about this, because there is a lot of resistance. And I think, we just don't have enough tools in our proverbial toolbox for economic development. And this is one that if we apply it well and in targeted ways to our village centers in particular, this could be very helpful with all, really unleashing some strong development, which would be great.
Yeah, and as the governor says, it doesn't cost anything. So,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you, Abby. Stick around, please, and we'll hear from Becky. Welcome, Becky. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good to see you.
You
So
too.
so let's just start out and tell us, what did the Senate pass, at least in terms of the numbers at the end? I know in finance, we were in heavy negotiations.
Yes, so for the record, Becky Wasserman, Legislative Counsel. So the Senate passed version had for the project-based TIFs had not more than 10 project-based TIFs with 3 per year, and not more than 3 per year, and only 1 per municipality. And there was a cap on the project cost of $5 million.
Right, I remember that. Yep. Okay. Okay, so we sent that off to this House. And then what happened?
So you may or may not remember, but the bill also included some, as Abby mentioned, some sort of language cleanup. I don't know if it's maybe not all technical cleanup for the bigger TIF statutes.
Right.
So what ended up happening in House Commerce is that they stripped out everything that was project based TIF related, and only kept the language having to do with the original TIF program that was doing some of that cleanup language and statute.
Did that cleanup language ever get attached anywhere else to become law? Or does that still need to be done?
That still needs to be done. So it passed out of House Commerce and ended up in Ways and Means. And then it did not move forward from there.
What, was there anything else in the bill besides the cleanup and the project-based TIFs? And do you have any, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you agree with Senator Clarkson and myself that this was, even though it was taken out by Commerce, that they were generally supportive of the concept?
I don't know that I can, to be honest, recall even
Yeah.
how it ended
No,
up
that's okay.
with that, but I know they had talked about it for a while, and I actually don't know why it ended up the way it did. So
That's fine. I mean, it's
More
not
help.
necessarily, it's not
but
necessarily,
I think some of the language that ended up in the version passed out of there was language that actually had been talked about in your committee and Senate Finance even 2 years ago, about changing the definitions of improvements and financing, and for the original TIF program, changing the language that has to do with the boundaries of TIF districts, and when there's a tax stabilization agreement in a municipality that also has a TIF district. So that kind of stuff that has been talked about for a few years now was in the version that ended up coming out of House Commerce.
so it became out of House Commerce more a cleanup bill for the big TIF program and was no longer a mini TIF bill. Did Ways and Means have discussions at all about even the cleanup version, or it just never got taken up? I know we were very close at the end and they ran out of time or something.
Yeah, I want to say maybe it was taken up once, maybe twice in their committee, but it was, I do recall it was right at the end of session. So.
And I do remember there being some talk, I don't know if it ever got translated to language or public language, of a potentially a further pilot project. I may be having this confused with downtown tax credits. But there's nothing in Ways and Means committee page of revised language from what Commerce passed, as far as you know. Okay.
No, there isn't.
Okay. Any questions, committee? I think the question I'm going to have for the committee is whether we want to replay this on the omnibus bill, I don't want to spend a lot of time revisiting the details of this bill unless there's something new that's happened. I mean, this full Senate has passed a version of it already. I think it's a good economic development tool to have, but obviously it's a complicated area and we spent a lot of time on it both here and in finance. And we just don't have the time to go through it again. But if we want, I have confidence that we did good work. And if we want to say, let's reload it, I'm all for that. But so we'll talk about this some more, but keep that in mind. And if there are, I guess I would ask Abby and Becky, is there anything new in the real world out there that would change our deliberation on this? I mean, we do know about the infrastructure bill. That's one thing that might change our thinking. But is there anything else that you would like to see? I know you actually, I think Abby didn't Vepsi have, or Megan before she left, I think had one suggested change she would like to see from this, even the Senate pass version. Do you recall what that is?
I
think it
think
may
in
have
the
had to do with the
language,
size.
I think in the language that you now have has that clarification in there. I can't remember exactly what Megan
Okay.
may have been thinking, but there is some added clarification in the revised language.
Okay. If you
look
can
at it,
get that,
make sure.
if you can get that to us and to Becky, we might, if it's sort of a technical fix, we could change that from what passed the Senate.
Mr. Chair, I believe it's in, and I may be wrong, but I believe it's in 263 David Hall's 3.1 draft. I believe it's there. If you wanted to check and make sure that the changes you're talking about were incorporated into that, that would be great.
I'm wondering if the change might have been to add industrial parks back in.
Yes, that has been. We looked at that yesterday. I'm pretty sure. Remember,
I know some of us want that change, but is that the suggestion from Vepsi, or is that something you would want to see?
So there are two towns that I can think of that would need that change in order to access project-based TIF, and that is Johnson and Highgate. Because those areas are outside of the state designated center. And of course, you wouldn't want an industrial park in your downtown anyways, right? So, and these would be compact and high density developments.
and they're existing industrial parks?
I think Johnson's will be a new. I'm not entirely sure about Highgate. It's just out in Johnson, it's just outside of the village.
Okay. Okay, we'll see. I mean, obviously that may have some controversy to it,
Yeah.
and may require. It's a lot easier to stand up on the floor and said, you all voted for this and there's no changes. But we'll see.
Is the one in Highgate right next to the airport?
Yes,
Is that what you're
it's
talking
near
about?
the airport.
Okay.
Yes.
And it's section 6B, Abby, as you're looking at the bill,
Okay.
3.1. It's on our website.
Well, anything else you folks want to add? Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Abby. Good to see you. And we can end a little early today so we can make up for the 6-minute break we had earlier.